Netflix was founded in August 1997 by Reed Hastings and Marc Randolph in Scotts Valley, California, a DVD by mail business. A monthly fee, no late charges, any film delivered to your door. The idea was not complicated. In January 2007, Netflix added streaming. They called it Watch Now. For $8 a month, you could stream Friends, The Office, Grey's Anatomy, Scrubs, a vast catalog of television and film that Netflix did not make, did not own, and did not have to maintain. Someone else had produced it. Netflix just paid for the right to show it to you. Here's the simplified version of how the economics worked. A television studio, Warner Brothers say, licenses a show to Netflix for a fixed annual fee. Netflix pays to stream it. The studio collects passive income on something it already made. Netflix then charges millions of subscribers for access to the library. In 2012, with 30 million subscribers paying roughly $8 a month, Netflix was collecting about $240 million every month. The content cost a fraction of that. The studio gets income from a catalog it is not actively selling. Netflix gets a library for a fraction of what it would cost to produce anything original. The subscriber gets years of television for less than a cinema ticket. 3 parties, 1 flat monthly fee, and the economics work because nobody is making anything new. Renting is cheap, building is expensive. The whole model ran on a single insight: renting is cheaper than owning. For about 15 years, that insight was very nearly perfect. In 2019, Disney looked at Netflix's numbers. 167 million people paying monthly fees to stream content that Disney had made, and made a straightforward calculation. All that viewing data, all those eyeballs, all flowing into someone else's balance sheet. Disney Plus launched on November 12, 2019. Warner Brothers began pulling its content for what became HBO Max. NBC Universal built Peacock. The studios had spent years contributing the best of their back catalogs to a library that was making a different company indispensable. They had decided to build their own instead. The signals were concrete. On January 1st, 2020, Friends left Netflix for HBO Max. On January 1st, 2021, The Office followed. NBC Universal had paid $500 million, $500 million, for 5 years of exclusive Peacock rights to The Office alone. Netflix had been willing to pay up to $450 million to keep it. NBC Universal outbid them by $50 million just to take it back. Every time someone watched Friends or The Office on Netflix, Netflix's subscriber numbers rose. The studios had been inadvertently proving Netflix's case for them, demonstrating to the world that a flat-fee streaming library was worth paying for. When they looked at the data, they understood they had been subsidizing someone else's growth with their own content. The studios had been renting Netflix their best furniture. Then they noticed Netflix was using it to furnish a house they had not been invited into. On February 1st, 2013, Netflix released House of Cards, all 13 episodes at once. No weekly schedule, no broadcast slot. Just a show, available entirely and immediately. Netflix was not just streaming content now, it was commissioning it. 2 seasons of House of Cards cost roughly $100 million. Ted Sarandos, then Netflix's head of content and later its co-CEO, made the call. Sarandos had spent years watching Netflix's viewing data and understood which genres were underserved. He had come to one conclusion: the only way to guarantee a library that could not be dismantled was to own it. The logic was simple. Licensed content always had a landlord problem. You paid rent, but the landlord could change the terms or take the property back at the end of the lease. Original content was ownership. The trade-off was cost. Owning is expensive, especially at scale. To fund the original strategy, Netflix issued debt. Between 2013 and 2019, the company raised approximately $15 billion in bonds to fund content production while subscriptions caught up. In October 2019, it raised another $2.2 billion in a single high-yield bond offering. High yield is the market's polite phrase for junk. Bonds issued because Netflix was spending more on content than it was earning. The original House of Cards bet cost $100 million. Netflix is now making that bet every 3 days. Here is the simplified version of the content machine as it runs today. Netflix spent $17 billion on content in 2024, not on licensing, on production. To make that number hold its shape, the entire North American cinema industry, every ticket sold in every cinema in the United States and Canada, earns approximately $8.5 billion a year. Netflix spent nearly twice that making things. Imagine you are running a production company in 2024. Netflix calls. They will fund your entire show: development, casting, filming, post-production, in exchange for global rights to the finished series, forever. You make the show. Netflix owns it. You never repay a dollar. For you, it is the best deal in Hollywood. For Netflix, it is a permanent expense with no guaranteed return. Netflix has over $23 billion in committed future content payments sitting on its balance sheet. Shows greenlit, deals signed, money pledged before a single frame has been shot. These are not aspirational targets. They are contractual obligations already owed. Of the roughly 500 original titles Netflix releases in a year, only a small fraction ever appears on a weekly top 10 list. The rest are paid for, available, and watched by almost nobody. Netflix has never published those numbers. The content spend keeps climbing. $17 billion in 2024, forecasted at $18 billion for 2025, regardless of how little of it finds an audience. $17 billion a year does not buy $17 billion worth of hits. It buys the infrastructure to occasionally produce one, and it buys the subscriber's sense that there is always something there. In April 2022, Netflix reported something it had not reported in a decade. It had lost subscribers. 200,000 in a single quarter. Not millions. 200,000. Netflix's stock fell more than 25% in a single day. The company then forecast it would lose another 2 million in Q2. Analysts who had spent years noting that subscriber growth would eventually plateau watched as the plateau arrived. Netflix had added subscribers every single quarter since 2012. The model rested on two assumptions: that there were always more households to convert, and that price increases would not push existing ones away. By early 2022, in the most developed markets, both assumptions had run out of room simultaneously. Reed Hastings had built Netflix on a single, clear proposition: flat monthly fee, no advertising, limitless content. He had said publicly, for years, that Netflix would never carry ads. The entire brand identity rested on being the alternative to the cable bundle, the clean thing. No interruptions, no commercial breaks, just the show. There is a ceiling on how many people will pay for something they feel they already have. In the spring of 2022, Netflix found it. On November 3, 2022, 18 months after that first subscriber loss, Netflix launched an ad-supported plan at $6.99 a month. The thing Hastings had said Netflix would never do. He stepped down as co-CEO 8 weeks later. Ted Sarandos and Greg Peters became joint chief executives. On May 23, 2023, Netflix began blocking password sharing in the United States. An account was for one household. If your adult child had been using your login from a different address, they now needed their own plan. In Q2 2023, Netflix added 5.9 million subscribers in a single quarter. In the same quarter a year earlier, it had lost 1 million. The password sharing crackdown worked, and it worked dramatically. But here's what that number actually means. The crackdown did not grow Netflix's total addressable market. It monetized people who were already watching, converting existing non-paying users into paying subscribers. It was a one-time unlock. You can only stop password sharing once. Once everyone who is sharing a password has been converted, the lever cannot be pulled again. A company that finds 5 million new customers by looking at the ones it already had is not growing its market. It is collecting what it was owed. Here is the mechanism that most analysis misses. Netflix did not add the ad tier because customers wanted a cheaper option. Netflix added the ad tier because $17 billion a year in content spend requires more revenue than subscriptions alone can comfortably sustain. The ad tier is the solution to a cost problem, not a product upgrade. Look at what Netflix has done with its pricing since the ad tier launched. In July 2023, it removed the basic no ads plan for new subscribers entirely. In October 2023, it raised the standard plan from $15.49 to $19.99 a month. The ad-supported plan, $7.99. That is a $12 monthly gap between watching ads and not watching them. For a household deciding between plans, $12 a month over a year is $144. Most households choose the ads. By November 2024, the ad-supported tier had 70 million monthly active users, 2 years after launching. In Q4 2024, more than 55% of new Netflix signups in available markets chose the cheaper ad plan. The majority of new Netflix customers are now choosing to watch advertisements. Netflix does not disclose its advertising revenue as a separate line. Analysts estimated the company earned approximately $1.5 billion from advertising in 2024. Netflix confirmed the figure doubled year over year and said it intends to double it again. If it does, advertising revenue approaches $3 billion, a growing slice of a company that earned $39 billion in total. Netflix spent 30 years telling you it was in the subscription business. It is now in the attention business, the same business as every television network that came before it. In 2024, Netflix reported $39 billion in revenue, an operating income of $10.4 billion, a margin of 27%, net income of $8.7 billion, 301.6 million paying subscribers worldwide. These are not the numbers of a company that is failing. Making those numbers required spending $17 billion on content in a single year, money that funded thousands of productions, most of which found small audiences. The model is profitable, but profitability required abandoning the 3 principles the model was founded on: cheap content, no advertising, and subscriber growth as the measure of success. In April 2025, Netflix stopped reporting quarterly subscriber counts altogether. Going forward, it said it would report engagement, hours watched. The stated reason: when people watch more, they stick around longer and recommend Netflix more often. That is true. It is also true that subscriber growth had become an awkward figure to headline. Ted Sarandos, Netflix's co-CEO, was asked in April 2025 whether Netflix has destroyed Hollywood. His answer? No, we're saving Hollywood. There is a version of that which is defensible. Netflix's production budget employs more writers, directors, and crews than the traditional studios. It is also true that Netflix is capturing the economics of those studios for its own shareholders, on terms the studios agreed to. The original Netflix model, cheap content, flat fee, no ads, lasted about 12 years. The current model works. But what you're watching tonight was made inside a system that spends more on content than the entire cinema industry earns from ticket sales, and profits because there is almost nowhere else to go. Whether that is saving something or simply replacing it is a question worth sitting with.